Gaurav Sawant is joining us from the Bharat Mandapam. Gaurav, you know, it's one thing to push and nudge people towards millets. It's a completely different thing to go and have a millets menu out and out, which is what I think we're doing for all our guests at the end of all that they've been through. We pushed through the Delhi Declaration. Now there'll be a millets extravaganza.
It indeed is a millet extravaganza. We've had millet samosa, we've had millet pakoda, we've had millet, in virtually every form. Bread, roti, pakoda, samosa.
So millets coming out of ears.
To be fair, it's quite tasty. So it's quite tasty, but perhaps it's also because for us, after maida and atta and besan, it's quite a change. But I wonder how it would be if it's a regular meal day in and day out. But then, as all food experts here say, it's also good for digestion. I wonder what our foreign guests would think about it. But Rahul, as you were mentioning, it is absolutely everything is vegetarian. Vegetarian teetotaler affair. Everything here is completely vegetarian. Some eyebrows were raised, but then now that people are going with the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam principle, well, they are living with it, at least here. If they want to have some non-veg, they go back to their hotels or someplace else, Rahul.
Well, the host gets to decide the menu, and the menu is largely millets. We see there Prime Minister Modi, President Draupadi Murmu waiting to receive our guests. Delhi looks stunning. There's been this glorious breeze, just the lightest drizzle, the air as clean can be. It's almost as if the skies opened up for the world to see the best of Delhi. That was on display, and with the Delhi Declaration coming through, and you saw Amitabh Kant, he was pumped, he was chuffed. He got the Delhi Declaration through, and when I messaged him when you were saying did you say 4 a.m. or 4 p.m.? He was talking about 4 a.m. Till 4 a.m. last night. That's Veena Sikri joins us, former diplomat. That's how late negotiations were going on for. And he says he later just said, this is what my leader wants. If your leader has a problem, tell them to speak to my leader. Veena Sikri, welcome, ma'am.
Yes, it has been the outcome of the document, the G20 Delhi Declaration being adopted unanimously, it has really been an outstanding success for Indian diplomacy. I think one of the greatest and the biggest that we have been able to do on the multilateral sphere, where we have got this large number of countries representing 85% of the world population and so much of the world GDP to agree to this. Amitabh Kant said that it took 200 hours of negotiation to get agreement on the Ukraine paragraph. And this has been remarkable because even in the Bali Declaration last year in Indonesia, under their chairmanship, there were the footnotes and so on, little bit of not complete consensus. But this time, as our Sherpa mentioned and our foreign minister mentioned, we were quite clear that we wanted a clean consensus document. And our leadership...
Tell me this, Veena ji, the fact that the reference to Russian aggression has been dropped, I'm seeing in the Financial Times and elsewhere, do you think this would become one of the for the host to get the Delhi Declaration through is a phenomenal achievement, but do you think this will become one of the strands internationally that the reference to Russian aggression has been dropped?
I think that's the first step toward getting an peaceful outcome of this whole imbroglio. I think that's very significant because we do know that unless you drop this reference to Russian aggression, there is no question of any peace talks. And we also know that our Prime Minister has always said this is not an era of war, and the only way out is through dialogue and diplomacy and by bringing a ceasefire. He mentioned that even many times and certainly with all the talks he's had with the foreign leaders, he would have brought us up in a very huge way. But the biggest obstacle is that the moment you talk of Russian aggression, then there is no question of any talks, there's no question of any acceptance. I think that the Delhi Declaration paragraph on Ukraine could be the starting point of a move towards restarting the dialogue through diplomacy and bringing about a ceasefire and moving towards a peaceful solution.
Oh, that's Kristalina Georgieva. She is dressed in an Indian ensemble, and that's interesting. She's been dancing to Sambali moves. She had her full game on. She's Dr. Geeta Gopinath's super boss, just managing director of the International Monetary Fund, now wearing this nice Indian outfit, fully set, and she's really, soaking in the moment.
I don't think there was a visual that went more viral, I suspect, than her dancing just after she arrived at the airport. Lovely, full-bodied, enjoying the culture. That really kind of set the tone.
I just have some interesting information. The Prime Minister turning back and showing what's at the back. So I asked somebody in the Prime Minister's office, "Ye piche kya hai?" So here's what it is. This is from Nalanda Mahavihara. Was in operation between the 5th century and the 12th century. Its legacy goes back to Buddha's and Mahavira's era, reflecting ancient India's advancement towards disseminating knowledge, wisdom, its embrace of diversity, meritocracy, freedom of thought, collective governance, autonomy, and knowledge sharing, all aligned with the core principles of democracy, reputed as one of the earliest universities in the world. Oh, this is the Nalanda University. Ah, okay. So this is the Nalanda University. It shows what the Nalanda University looked like back in the day, living testament to the enduring spirit of advanced educational pursuit and its commitment to build a harmonious world community, aligning with India's G20 presidency, Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. Also, there's a big idea there because Nalanda was where international scholars came to study, which is why they've got this image at the back. You had the, you had a Konark at the back earlier, the Chakra, and now you've got. So they've actually thought this through. There's deep thought, and which is why he's turning back and explaining to everyone who's coming about the image at the back. Okay, so that's Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General of the United Nations, Prime Minister Modi introducing President Draupadi Murmu to everyone who's coming in. So and this is the sequence. You've got all the heads of the international bodies that are here. They come in first. Then the special invitees who are invited as India's guests to the G20, and that reflects India's strategic choices internationally. Who do you invite? And then come the G20 members. And that's the sequence that is followed. So that's Antonio Guterres. And he'd be thinking we couldn't get the UNSC expanded, but we managed to expand the G20.
Good point.
And this morning the AU head came in as a guest, but today the dinner he'll come in as a member.
And I was speaking to Sunil Bharti Mittal, who was talking about the response in Africa, because after the B20 got over, he went to Africa. This is really India's soft power at play. China loaded so many African countries with massive amounts of debt. There are 55 members of the African Union. You get them a seat in the high table. With that one move, India's presidency is spoken of in all those countries, at least amongst the governments and subsequently amongst the people as well. That's as big an achievement as there can be. So this is not just for, we're having this big debate in the morning about whether this is just about the packaging. I think by the end of it, with the Delhi Declaration coming through strong in the way that it did, it's very clear. It's not just the packaging, it's the entire package. Form and substance together is what we're seeing at play. That's Dr. Tedros, head of the World Health Organization, being introduced by Prime Minister Modi. It's a stunning backdrop of the Nalanda University where they have this image. That image will be in their offices, in their drawing rooms, and there he is, Dr. Tedros, with Draupadi Murmu, the President of Bharat.
Again, soft power, because in Europe, universities were started really in the year 1054. The first university was in Bologna, not in England. And this goes back 2,000 plus years. So it's a very subtle message and a good message. But talking of soft power generally, not just in Africa, today if you go to Afghanistan, despite all their troubles, if you ask children or men and women, the country that is most loved is India. Despite all the money poured in by America, despite all the claims of patronage by Pakistan, it is India that is. Ambassador Karjo would know more about it.
Well, I would concur with you, except that over the last 2 years, that goodwill has been, I'm being candid, has been eroded because of certain factors. Let me leave it at that.
But it happens, there can be corrections, there can be correctives.
I hope there will be very soon. But there's one point, if you permit me to say.
Yes, please.
I think what Veena was saying is correct, that there has to be a climb down from extreme positions taken by the contending parties in the Ukraine war. Quite clear. And the Prime Minister used the word war today in his opening address. The fact is, as Rajiv, I'm sure, will agree with me on this, that it is one thing for countries to agree to in documents such as this. And it's quite
Okay, that's
another
Ajay
thing.
Banga with Mrs. Banga, another Indian icon, now president of the World Bank. Will be interviewing him tomorrow. He's doing a warm namaste to President Draupadi Murmu. He spent a lot of time, and really, like you got so many Indians running top Silicon Valley companies, to have Ajay Banga as president of Microsoft, both he and his brother, distinguished Indians at the global stage. The Prime Minister incredibly fond of Ajay Banga.
He's president of the World Bank.
World Bank, yeah. President of the World Bank, Ajay Banga, used to be head of MasterCard before this, and really seen as one of the exemplary Indians to do as well as is possible on the international stage. Nice, warm conversation with Ajay Banga and Mrs. Banga there, between the Prime Minister and Draupadi Murmu, and he's keeping it going. His time management is immaculate, Shiv. He's very mindful of not wanting a log jam, keeping the sequence going so there's no pile up.
10:30 a.m. is when the first session at the G20 was supposed to start, where the speech was supposed to begin, and all of the leaders were passed through by the Prime Minister by 10:29. I was looking at the clock that we had, 10:30 and 10:29 it was complete, which means, accounting for the little handshakes, the little, gestures with Biden and some of the others, and we also talked about who he spent more time with. But clearly this thing functions like clockwork. It's a machine. Everything goes to time. The Prime Minister obviously has a very clear sense of it, and also a respect for other people's time. If you say 10:30, it means 10:30 something, and when you're handling up to 25 leaders of this kind, Rahul, it's not easy to do that.
So Shiv, the message goes down then.
Yeah.
If the leader is sticking to time, others also follow.